In the following tutorial, we're going to take a look at using the motion tween with a path and motion editor. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can get nice and close, and I'm going to draw myself a small little car. Now it's going to be an ugly car, but that doesn't really matter. So I'm going to begin drawing my car with just a regular gray box or so. Maybe it can be a little bit more exciting. Maybe I'll have an orange body. And it could be kind of nice to have one edge be back a little bit, so it'll be kind of a little bit more racy looking car. Little rounded top maybe. So there's my car body. I'll go back. I'm going to give it some wheels. A couple little wheels here. Might make those black just so they look a little bit more exciting. And so there's my very simple car. I'll select those three layers and I'll turn them into a movie clip in just a second. I do want to point out that this object next to it is the bones animation, and I notice that when I try and click and drag around the area, it does notice that that bones sometimes extends out to the right here, and so what's happening is it's actually seeing that in the selection accidentally. So you want to be very careful about just clicking and dragging around an area to select, that you don't select other objects that you don't mean to. So I'll just click on my three different objects that make up my car, right click and choose Convert to Symbol and call this car. Now I can move this up to where I want it to start. And I'm going to have this car move in a backwards S pattern so that it kind of drives down and then comes over to the right. So pretty easy. We're going to begin by creating a new movie clip to put this inside so that we have its own independent movie clip. So we'll right click, choose Convert to Symbol, and this will be the car anim. Now I can double click on it to go inside the car anim and create the motion tween that I want. Let's right click and choose Create Motion Tween. And now I'm going to go to the bottom where I'd like it to be, but you'll see that it's created a straight line in between. Now I can actually improve this path pretty easily just by clicking and dragging this object up a little bit. You'll see that it's actually changed the path a little bit more than I'd really like. So I'm going to go back down to frame 20 and move it here to the left. Ooh, look at that. Now I'm starting to get a path. Now I can actually alter this path and I can move the entire path at once if I want, but if I select the white arrow, I can click on the path and adjust each individual curve, which is really nice. So you'll see it kind of goes straight out, then it has a nice big turn, then it's got a little turn at the bottom, and eventually I want to be going straight again. And you'll see that we'll kind of do the exact same thing when we do our next car animation as well. So there's my path. It's kind of a backwards S. You'll see he's moving along that path if you scrub the timeline. Now one of the things that I'd like to do is click on this tween and then go to this button here called Orient to Path. If I click on Orient to Path, you'll see that he's now moving along that path the entire time, and it's created all these new keyframes here. And all these new keyframes are actually for the way that he's rotated at each individual point. Pretty cool for sure. Even is pointed up slightly at the end there. Alright, so now I want to go to the motion tween because I want to do one last thing. And that is I want to make them slow down in the center and then speed up at the very end. So I want to go to the window, motion tween. It's somewhere here, motion editor, there it is. And I've made this big before. So now I'm going to click on that tween just to make sure it's active. Go back to the motion editor, and here you can see the basic motion. I've got my basic motion of X, Y, and Z there. And let's see, what do I want to change? This is actually going to be more difficult than I'd like. Because what I can do, I think this is what I might show. I can actually move some of these things back a little bit in time and have them happen at different speeds. I'm going to move that forward a little bit in time and just see what we get. Now you can see it did work. So if you notice, these dots are further apart at the beginning, and then they're closer apart or closer together in the middle, and then they're further apart. So what's happening is that he's going a little bit slower, then speeding up, and then going a little bit slower, which I guess is actually the opposite of what we wanted. So I'm going to click back on the motion editor. Whoops, let's make sure I click on that path, then the motion editor. So we really want this to happen later, and this stuff come back earlier. So now what's happening is he's going a little bit slower, faster in the middle, and then slower at the end. If I go back to my motion, take a look. Here he's very close together at first, then he's slower, and then he's a little bit faster. So if we want to watch this in real time, we can go ahead and test our movie with Control-Enter. Now, playing with the motion editor is one of those things that takes time, and we looked at it a little bit earlier, but it's a very powerful thing in Flash CS5. So if you don't feel completely comfortable with it, don't worry. We have the classic tween, which we'll be learning in our next tutorials, that will help us more. In the next tutorial, though, we're going to be going through coding this file so that we can stop and play each individual animation. So go on to and save your work, and then go on to the next tutorial.